If you've ever been to our house, chances are 99% you have had what we affectionately call sauce. Now, for you that looking at me like a tree full of owls, I'm going to just explain some terms, because there's a lot of confusion about the subject, and I'm going to get somewhere. I'm going somewhere with it. Sauce is tomato sauce that you put on. You don't put it on noodles. I mean, you can put it on noodles, but noodles are noodles. Those little flat things, Muller's egg noodles, those are noodles. Nothing else is noodles. Ramen noodles, those are noodles. But those round things that look like stovepipes with the little lines on them, those are not noodles. Those are rigatonis. And the little short ones. I mean, if there's ever a fight me and my wife had in all our years, it's they grew up on Ziti's, we grew up on rigatonis.
Isn't it the same stuff?
No, they taste way different. Then there's spaghetti. Then there's spaghetti. Sauce is the red stuff you put on it. Now, in New York City, they call it gravy. I don't know why they call it gravy. Gravy to me is brown, but every little section has their thing. So if you've come to our house, chances are good that you've had sauce. Now, in our house coming up, there was some, and I don't want to be crude in the pulpit, but there was some four-letter words that were not allowed, and ragu was one of them. We had a missions conference a few years ago, and Adam Thompson was there, and they had one boy from South Carolina who was going to Germany. He goes, "This is real good, brother. Is this ragu?" Adam Thompson goes, "Brother, you don't come in an Italian house and ask him if it's ragu, especially when you're trying to get to the mission field." Now, for the most part, if you grew up with sauce, you like the sauce you grew up with best. Right, Terry? You like the sauce you grew up with best, so everybody's going to have their little thing, and I'm just going to tell you our thing, and some misnomers about what you got to have a good sauce. Number one, put everything in there. You don't put everything in there. You don't put carrots in sauce. You put carrots in soup or salad. Now, I'm just telling you my preference. You don't put peppers and onions and mushrooms. You put those things in salad and in soup. What you put in sauce is Italian sausage, very diverse, and a little beef, cheapest you can get, and a little country-style spare rib, and you make some meatballs. Those are the different things that you put in the sauce. So that's a misnomer. Second misnomer, you don't leave it on there for 3 days. Now, it took us 35 years to learn that. I said, "Whoa!" We had sauce somewhere. I said, "What? You must have had this simmering for years." "Oh, no. You got to bring it to a boil. You let it boil a little bit, and then you put it down 2 or 3 hours. When it starts to change the color, that's it. Because if you burn that sauce, you'll never get the burn taste out." Now, don't get me wrong. I've had sauces that have simmered for days. I know most restaurants, they have to simmer them for days. But just a couple of things to try to help you. Another big one, I can get away with it because my mother-in-law's, I was wondering how I was going to get away with this. You have to just take oil and garlic, just some olive oil and some garlic and salt and pepper, and not turkey seasoning and not thyme and not cumin and not cinnamon and just that stuff. Salt, pepper, garlic, onion, you'll never lose. And you fry that. You have to fry that meat because it sears the juices in. And when you put that thing in, and my mother-in-law says, "Joe, don't put that grease in the sauce from that meat." "Okay, Dolores." That's where the flavor is. You may die early, but you'll die knowing something tasted good. And then the last thing is, which brings us to our message here, is you can't just leave it. You got to stir it. You got to stir it. In fact, see this here? This is not a badminton. This thing is older than most of us in this room. What this does, this is for you got to go to the lowest burner and turn it all the way down, and then it takes that heat and dissipates it even more. Because here's why you stir. Number one, things have a tendency to settle. And you know what you do? You come to church, you're going to come to Bible conference, hopefully you're going to come to music weekend. I went to a camp meeting this past week, and you know what? And you say, ooh, I'm stirred. He told me this morning, he came with us this week, he says, I'm still pumped up from camp meeting. Yeah, and the world and the flesh and the devil and most of the brethren are going to say, just settle down. So you know why I preach like I do? So he can get stirred up again. That's what preaching ought to do. It ought to stir you up. There was no small stir what had happened to Peter. There was no small stir what happened to Jay Folk. The words went through the company, went through the family. That afro head, he done got Jesus. He got religion. No small stir. You say, preacher, that's you guys. You were over there. If some of you young people would get out of your moderation comfort zone, there'd be no small stir what had happened to you either right in this church. You got to stir. Why? Because things have a tendency to settle. You got to stir because things have a tendency to spoil. They get down in the bottom and they start to burn. And when you burn sauce, you're through. Just throw it away. Because you could scrape all that and try to filter it out, you're always going to have that burnt taste. So what do you do when things have a tendency to settle? You go to a Bible conference, you go to a music weekend, you go to a camp meeting, you get stirred, and things have a tendency to settle. You know what the cure for that is? You go to a Bible conference, you go to a music meeting, you come to church when the doors are open to get stirred.